When the place you come home to becomes a war zone, it doesn't feel good.
The top home builders in America are making Wall Street investors rich, but you are paying the price.
What people are willing to do frightens me in the name of profit.
Enterprises such as D.R. Horton, Lennar, and Pulte stand as massive national residential developers.
Hey, don't buy that D.R. Horton house.
When we first bought the home 2 months later, our son's playroom was covered in mold.
Furthermore, these gigantic construction firms repeatedly assemble inferior structures while simultaneously manipulating real estate markets to significantly inflate residential costs throughout the entire country.
The housing market is actually seeing the highest, most expensive.
As home builders have pushed prices out of reach for many buyers, they've also created a new dystopian model that builds entire communities to sell directly to Wall Street landlords.
You'll own nothing and be happy.
Seeking clarity on how financial entities systematically destroy traditional private ownership, investigators traveled toward Texas to heavily scrutinize the nation's preeminent construction firm, Dr. Horton. What we found not only explains why many Americans can't buy homes until their 40s, but also serves as a warning for what's to come. D.R. Horton currently builds about 1 out of every 7 new homes in America, and last year they made $4.4 billion for their shareholders. That market dominance gives Dr. Horton the power to dictate how homes are priced and sold through 5 tactics that maximize their profit while pushing the cost onto you. The first tactic, incentivize. In 2023, Sarah and Eric Munoz bought a Dr. Horton home in San Antonio. And at first it looks like a great deal.
When we came across the D.R. Horton home, the model looked good.
Discounts and, special perks like the fridge or the washer and dryer.
All those enticing incentives are par for the course with Dr. Horton.
Incredible pricing, incredible incentive.
You could have a mortgage payment of $19.50 a month versus $22.50 a month.
Last year, 81% of all Dr. Horton home sales went through their own mortgage department, which has access to cheaper Wall Street capital than most lenders. But this sleight of hand is inflating home prices across the market. Stay with me while we do some math. For a $2,000 monthly payment at 6% interest, you can probably get a home in the $300,000 range. But if you get a 4% rate from D.R. Horton, you may be able to get a house that's in the $400,000 range. These incentives seem like a good deal for buyers, and shareholders love them too.
We focus predominantly on incentives where we can.
To translate that corporate speak, because of their incentives, D.R. Horton can keep home prices higher than they actually are. Then those inflated numbers enter real estate databases and can push home prices higher, even beyond D.R. Horton's own subdivisions. In response reporting, Dr. Horton said that these mortgage incentives make monthly payments more manageable for buyers, but did not answer question about maintaining their base prices. And as home buyers are paying more, they are often getting homes that are made as cheaply as possible, which brings us to tactic number 2, cut costs.
The home definitely had some issues right off the bat. The frame of the home was kind of set up like Jenga.
That's mold.
Over here, we've got the world's biggest crack in my foundation.
It's a D.R. Horton
house. Not only are some of these houses poorly built, but they are actually making people sick. For the average American family, home ownership currently feels like a vanishing target. High entry costs and a historic lack of inventory have turned the path to a mortgage into a steep uphill climb. While it is easy to blame rising interest rates for the freeze, the landscape of the American suburb has been fundamentally altered by a small group of corporate entities that have consolidated their control over new development. Dr. Horton sits at the top of this hierarchy, mass manufacturing entire cities. This chart compares typical historical builder revenues against Dr. Horton's recent earnings. In 2024 alone, they generated nearly $37 billion in revenue, a figure that reflects their unprecedented consolidation of market share. This level of market dominance grants these mega builders significant economic power, allowing them to exert heavy influence over regional pricing and construction standards while shifting long-term costs onto the consumer. To maintain these high property prices, housing giants rely on a potent financial tool, captive in-house lending. Over 80% of Dr. Horton buyers finance their purchase through the builder's own department, DHI Mortgage. In a climate where average mortgage rates are stuck at 7%, builders offer a powerful incentive. They buy down the interest rate to 4 or 5%, often adding thousands in closing credits to secure the deal. This scale illustrates how aggressive financing incentives interact with property value. By using cheap Wall Street capital to subsidize a lower monthly payment, the builder can keep the base price of the home tens of thousands of dollars higher than its actual market value. When these inflated sales are recorded in regional databases, they warp the local comparable sales metrics. This pushes up housing prices for the entire surrounding community, regardless of who built the home. The monthly discount is a temporary relief that masks a long-term reality. The buyer is overpaying for the underlying asset, creating a permanent distortion in the local real estate market. These financing tactics are now at the center of a massive federal RICO class action lawsuit. The National Consumer Law Center is leading the litigation, accusing the home builder of a predatory process they call the monthly payment suppression scheme. To convince first-time buyers that the mortgage was affordable, the builder allegedly engineered closing documents to lowball the estimated property taxes. Look at the disparity between these figures. The scheme allegedly calculated tax liability based only on the land value, the vacant dirt, while completely ignoring the value of the fully constructed house sitting on top of it. Families signed their contracts believing they had secured the American dream. But a year later, when the local tax assessor re-evaluated the improved property, monthly mortgage payments skyrocketed by hundreds or even 1,000. This foreclosure stamp represents the final stage of the process for many families. Those who were promised affordability were pushed to their financial limit by a systematic corporate calculation. The physical reality of these homes is often as precarious as the financing. Homeowners are discovering these structures are built as cheaply as possible. Social media is now filled with accounts of severe structural failures. New owners are documenting foundation cracks wide enough to fit a hand inside, and residential plumbing systems that fail within weeks of the move-in date. A statewide class action lawsuit in Louisiana has brought further allegations to light, including defective designs and failing HVAC systems installed by mandated contractors. The human cost is alarming. Families report toxic mold spreading rapidly through new drywall, leading to chronic respiratory infections and unexplained illnesses in children who are simply breathing the air in their own bedrooms. These widespread reports indicate a systemic failure in quality control. The speed of construction and the minimization of material costs have entirely eclipsed the fundamental obligation to build safe, habitable dwellings. It is logical to assume that a multi-billion-dollar corporation would prioritize fixing these life-altering defects as soon as they are discovered. Instead, the warranty contract often functions as a trap. Builders mandate specific repair companies that apply cheap cosmetic fixes, masking deep structural decay without ever addressing the root cause. Corporate financial disclosures reveal how this is factored into the business model. Last year, Dr. Horton spent nearly $200 million on home repairs and litigation costs. To the institutional investors on Wall Street, that $200 million is merely the accepted cost of doing business. Mathematically, it is cheaper for these mega builders to construct effective houses and settle the resulting lawsuits than it is to invest in high-quality materials and labor. The American home has been financialized into a high-margin consumer product. What appears to be a dream deal is often a lifelong corporate liability, transforming the core of the American neighborhood into a profit center for Wall Street. Look at almost any real estate listing today, and you see prices that have completely decoupled from average incomes. This universal difficulty in buying a home is more than a side effect of recent inflation or a lack of physical space to build. The modern housing shortage is a specific business strategy. It uses controlled scarcity to move wealth from middle-class families directly into corporate accounts. To see how the public lost control of their own neighborhoods, we have to look back at a specific financial fracture that occurred 40 years ago. Half a century ago, the home building industry was defined by local competition. If a family wanted to build a new house, they chose from dozens of local mum-and-pop builders in their own town. This local pressure kept construction quality high and pricing fair. That system began to break during the savings and loan crisis of the 1980s. As regional banks were wiped off the map, small community builders lost their only access to the construction loans they needed to operate. Massive corporate builders survived by bypassing local banks entirely. They went public on Wall Street, securing billions of dollars in institutional capital that their local competitors couldn't touch. They used that capital over the next 3 decades to buy out smaller competitors and acquire massive tracts of land, effectively removing those resources from the local market. By replacing local bank loans with Wall Street investment, these firms concentrated the entire American home building industry into the hands of a few dominant megacorporations. Today, that consolidation has given megabuilders a literal chokehold on the American housing supply. In quarterly earnings calls, corporate executives describe this as operating with discipline. In practice, that discipline is a coordinated effort to throttle the number of homes available to the public. Megabuilders sit on hundreds of thousands of vacant residential lots. By hoarding the available real estate, they prevent smaller competitors from building on it, which starves the local market of new inventory. This data visualization shows research from Johns Hopkins University. It found that intense home builder concentration reduces housing production nationwide by a staggering 106,000 every year. This gap results in roughly 150,000 fewer homes built annually than what a healthy competitive market would provide. By maintaining this permanent scarcity, megabuilders ensure the prices of their own newly constructed homes never face downward pressure. The largest builders are now pivoting away from the middle-class buyer entirely. They have shifted their focus to a much wealthier client base: Wall Street landlords, private equity firms, and hedge funds. Under the build-to-rent model, they construct subdivisions where not a single home is available for purchase. The builder sells the entire neighborhood directly to institutional investors. Look at Dr. Horton's 2024 fiscal year. They sold nearly 4,000 single-family rental homes directly to corporate investors, generating over $1,200,000 in revenue from that specific pipeline. These neighborhoods are designed so the residents can never build equity or own the land beneath their feet. They exist to hand their paychecks over to a faceless corporation every month. If this trajectory continues, an entire generation of Americans risks being locked out of the middle class. The market is shifting toward a model where shelter is a service provided by a few corporate entities rather than an asset owned by families. This system relies on a few firms hoarding the land, setting the price of shelter, and collecting lifelong rent from a population that can no longer build wealth through ownership. The housing crisis functions exactly as the executives described in their earnings calls. By keeping inventory low, they keep their prices and profits high. Until legislative action restricts Wall Street from treating homes as speculative assets and breaks up these land-hoarding monopolies, the American dream will remain a luxury product that the average citizen was never intended to afford.